I'm Maria Fontanazzo with MedAd News, and I'm here with Drew Kearse and Loren Levinson from Moon Rabbit.
Hello.
Let's talk creative. How do your strategists and creatives collaborate to translate insights from intimacy into creative expression?
Well, we hardly ever talk, but realistically, from the get-go, we're lockstep. I feel like the strategy department and creative department are really just extensions of each other. From the get-go, when strategy is gathering intel, we're poking, we're prodding, we're along for the ride, giving our opinions, whether wanted or not, but they're being listened to, and we're developing that insight together. And when it comes to briefing the creative team, it's not a handoff and then they disappear. Strategy is there for everything. It's there for brainstorms, casual questions, suggestions, everything along the route to develop a campaign. They're there with us.
Yeah, I will say that working with creative is the best part of being a strategist, because what you all do is magic, and I have no idea how they all do what they do.
I feel the same way.
Oh, Lord. But the other element is that when we're developing a brief, it has to work for the creative team. It doesn't matter how smart we think it is, how strong we think the insight is, or how clever we think it is. If it's not working, it is literally a tool that an entire group of people need to create off of. And if they're not able to, then we need to go back to the drawing board. And the other element that's great is Drew and his team and really provide amazing feedback. And are we telling the right story? Are we telling a story that moves them, that's going to help create work that's going to move our customers?
Yeah, and I've been other places where you get, an insight in the mail, basically. And you're just like, okay, I guess this is what it is. But we're building that together, and it's feedback back and forth. It's an understanding. And when we arrive at something, we're all confident. We're all excited to get going on, to make it into something special.
And so when you're formulating the creative brief, and we're talking about the context of the theme of intimacy, what are you prioritizing first?
We're prioritizing what the human experience is for our target audience. And so when we develop, it's funny, we were just chatting about this. There's the brief and then there's a briefing deck. And it's what is the story that we're telling? And are we creating an emotional experience that elicits that emotive understanding of our audience for the creative team? And we often actually share that with our clients, which is actually unusual here, that it's something that at first we would you never share a brief that way with the clients, but helping them feel the intimate insight and experience of the audience actually really helps everything all the way up through creative review, I think.
Oh, certainly. And I think, we use intimacy to get closer, go deeper, but really to make it simpler. Mm-hmm. It's breaking down walls, it's breaking down barriers that our audience may have, and finding that core emotion, finding that core issue, that core desire. And when you really look at it, we're then just saying, hey, this is a universally relatable human emotion that we're talking to. And at first you'd say intimacy, maybe that will lead to creative that's a little bit stuffier or heavy, but it's the exact opposite. I think once we have that core emotion, it means we have permission to talk to them as humans. We're not talking to our audience as doctors or patients, we're talking to them as humans, first and foremost. And that gives us the permission to, make them laugh, make them cry. It doesn't really matter. We can go beyond RTBs and we can just connect with them. And that allows us to, truly connect and also move them on a personal level.
And so draw out a little bit more on that. How are you using that approach to build between brands and audiences?
Well, I think, when you bring in the brand, you have to put it in a position where it's there to help our audience accomplish their goal. And frankly, in order to be successful, you have to make sure that it's there in a position where they see their goal as unattainable without the brand itself. Mm-hmm. And once you've used an intimate insight and connected with them, they no longer see it as a brand or a product or a service being sold to them. If you do it right, they'll see it as a partner, see it as something that they're going to be able to achieve their goal with, something that's there alongside them, helping them along their way.
So can you give an example of an intimacy-based insight that led to an unexpected or unconventional creative idea?
With intimacy and with our briefing process and everything that when we're trying to find the information of what our audience actually wants, ego has to go out of the door. It's anything you expected, anything you assumed it's not there. It's let's talk to the actual experts who are actually living it and hear what they have to say. And one specific example, working with a brand called Ycanth for molluscum contagiosum, basically a chicken pox for kids. And it's harmless, but it's unsightly. And we assume that the biggest issue is going to be, our parents don't want their kids to have it. It could be ostracizing. And we realize that, yes, that's the case, but the real burden that's on these parents is the chaos that it creates in the home, the endless rounds of laundry they have to do, the fact they have to keep siblings separated, everything that they have to do just adds so much more to what a parent's already dealing with. So we were able to create a fun campaign, actually, that personified these bumps as kind of little monsters that are wreaking havoc about the house, taking the kids out of what they want to be doing, but also taking the parents out of their regular routine. And what we saw and what we heard from people is that they connected with it. They recognized it. They said, yeah, that's my house right now, and I can't stand it. And luckily, there's now a product that can help me get rid of that.
And so how are you evaluating whether a campaign is emotionally authentic, all the way through from start through the execution process?
That's always a tough challenge because, as we know, from the first iteration of a concept to final execution, it could have changed greatly, and you fear that it's unrecognizable. But at every step of the way, we go back to when it was in its rawest form, and when we said this is what attacks and attaches to that core emotion, that's going to move our audience to action, and we look back and make sure everything ladders up. And sure, it may look different, it may sound different, but as long as it's keeping that core message, that core spirit, that the essence of it, we're good to go.
And I think an element of that is everything that we're doing is to animate an inanimate object. A brand brings a product to life and all to have a relationship with the customer. And so throughout this whole process, how is the brand showing up? How is the work working? We like to say that we create work that works, and it's based on an intimacy foundation of our OS. And how are we pulling that throughout the whole process? And are we staying true to what the job to be done is?